Hello everybody, and welcome to my fourth top 10 list. In celebration of hitting 10,000 subscribers, I asked my viewers to come up with 10 top 10 lists of any topic that they thought would be interesting or entertaining for me to compose. Today, we will be counting down my top 10 emotional moments on my channel. Special thanks to Love Sniping, Fabulous519, and CC Dragon for requesting this list. This kind of goes with a previous list of my top 10 memorable events, as well as complementing my next list, my top 10 tabletop moments on my channel. So yeah, pretty much I'm cheating by spreading essentially 30 different moments across 3 different lists. I should give a fair warning that this list definitely contains major spoilers for the games that they are referencing. In order to help you avoid unwanted spoilers, I have listed all of the games associated with these moments in the description below with timestamps that you can use to skip around if you wish. So once again, those of you who are sensitive to spoilers, you've been warned. So, without further ado, here are my top 10 emotional moments on my channel. Number 10. The grandfather scene in Seduce Me. The Seduce Me franchise has already popped up a couple of times in my top 10 lists, and this one is going to be no different. Early on in the story, the protagonist is standing by the grave of her recently deceased grandfather. Meanwhile, in real life, my own grandfather had just recently passed away as well. And with the exceptionally well-placed music, I definitely started getting misty-eyed as I talked a little bit about my grandpa and how much he meant to me. I always love it when a game is able to invoke such deep emotions within me based on what's happening in my life at that moment. That relevancy is so magical, and it really helped enhance my experience with the game even before it barely even started. Number 9. Goodbye, Alabon Finston, from Mass Effect Collision. My buddy Dylan played Sync in my first Mass Effect tabletop campaign, Mass Effect Collision. The journey his character experienced throughout the campaign was a roller coaster of emotions. I don't want to get into too much detail about it here, but many viewers have expressed how much they enjoyed watching Sync's very emotional story play out. Arguably, the one line that is most associated with him are the words, "Are you happy?" Which is why when we reach the end of the campaign, there's this scene where his journey comes full circle, and he makes the very tough decision of letting go of one of the most important people in his life, so he can move on and allow others in as well. Watching the scene still gives me chills to this day. Number 8. In a Heartbeat. This item on the list is unique in that it's neither a video game nor a tabletop campaign. It's actually a reaction to a revolutionary short created by Esteban Bravo and Beth David. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend that you check it out. It definitely is one of my favorite shorts of all time, and probably the one I will remember for my entire life. I got so emotional because I could totally relate to everything that was going on in that video. I've been there, and I could feel the emotions of everyone else watching that short and what it meant to so many people. As far as I'm concerned, this short was a masterpiece for me. It'll be one of those things similar to the beginning of Pixar's Up, where no matter how many times I watch it, it will always invoke the feels without fail. Number 7. The ending of Valiant Hearts. Friends had warned me that this would be an emotional game, and I had almost forgotten about that as I was Let's Playing it because I was having so much fun with the story, the lovable characters, the art style, and the quirky gameplay. Then we reached the end, and boy, did it hit me. I kinda saw it coming with at least one of the characters, especially given what the entire premise of the game's plot was about. But it still didn't prepare me for when it actually did happen. It certainly got to me, and I certainly shed some tears. If a game is so powerful that it can do that, especially with next to no dialogue, it must certainly be a classic. Number 6. Mordin in Mass Effect 3. If I had to pick my favorite character across the entire Mass Effect franchise, it would have to be Mordin Solus. Sorry, Clive Shepard. At first glance, I saw Mordin as this incredibly animated, yet brilliantly funny, fast-talking Salarian. Then I discovered that his character had many more layers and was far deeper than I ever could have imagined, especially when it came to his involvement in the Genophage. The internal conflicts he seemed to have really got to me during his personal side quest in Mass Effect 2. Then what really skyrocketed his brownie points for me was when he mentioned that he was into music theater and actually started singing Gilbert and Sullivan. Which is why when that scene arrives in Mass Effect 3, where we're about to release the cure for the Genophage, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I really wish that I was filming with my face cam at the time, because I was so incredibly emotional. And the cool thing is, that scene is heavily emotional even if you decide to sabotage the cure. In fact, it's far more gut-wrenching and tragic, especially when Mordin admits for the only time,
I made a mistake!
After all, it had to be him.
Someone else might have gotten it wrong.
Yes. Mass Effect 3 was my very first Let's Play, and this was the very first time I truly broke down with the feels on a Let's Play. Fortunately, that was only the beginning of countless feels moments to come. Number 5. Delwyn's mother in Dragon Age Intervention. Dragon Age Intervention was the very first tabletop campaign that I had ever posted on my channel. One of my players, Shali, was actually one of the main Let's Players that inspired me to make my own LPs in the first place. You can imagine how much I fangasmed when she agreed to play in a campaign with me. Anyways, her character, Delwyn, is a free spirit elf who normally doesn't let anything trip him up or bother him. Some consider him to be a bit arrogant, reckless, and totally irresponsible. But then he meets his mother, face to face for the first time in years, and it's absolutely tragic when he realizes what happened to her. Role-playing the scene with Shali was incredible. I think it was the very first truly emotional scene in my YouTube tabletop campaigns. Even to this day, when I watch it, I can't help but feel all the knots in my stomach. It was beautifully well executed by her, and it became the standard of future emotional moments in my campaigns to come. Number 4. Hugh leaves Cedric in Dragon Age Resurgence.
I don't want you to leave, Hugh.
Dragon Age Resurgence is the second Dragon Age tabletop campaign that I've hosted on my channel, and the bromance between Cedric and Hugh is a major fan favorite. Whenever these two characters are in a scene together, the chemistry is intense. Now, to be fair, canonically nothing romantic ever happens between them. Still, it's very clear that the two are incredibly important to each other, which is incredible considering how one of them is technically not supposed to be able to feel any emotions at all. But, despite their deep friendship, a crisis point occurs in the middle of the campaign where Hugh believes it would be best for him to leave the adventuring party and seclude himself into a state of complete loneliness. Kevin did a fantastic job showing how torn Cedric was during this entire exchange, and the fact that this happened during our single in-person session when the players actually came to visit me physically made the entire scene all the more gripping. Kevin mentioned that out of character he felt absolutely destroyed and was physically shaking when that scene ended, and I personally felt incredibly shooken up too. It's pretty amazing how role-playing can create characters that feel so real to us that it can leave you feeling that way.
Fine. You don't want to stay? I'm not stopping you. Leave. And Cedric will just turn. Not walk away, but just turn. That's what you really want? Know this, Hugh. He's not making eye contact. Somewhere down the line, I'm gonna find that painting. And I will kill anyone who gets in my way. I will destroy it so you can have a life again.
That's who you are, Cedric. Goodbye, Cedric. You'll hear footsteps behind you.
Hugh has left the party. He's no longer in the roster. We're gonna end the session there.
Oh my god.
Number 3. Simon and Drimmy. Mass Effect Collision. Drimmy was a big fan favorite in the Mass Effect Collision tabletop campaign. In designing Drimmy, I wanted to push the envelope and come up with an exploratory concept that had never been seen in the franchise proper. He was also a dear friend to Dylan's character, Sync. One session to this day is particularly infamous to my players, the Simon session. This was easily the most intense session of the entire campaign, and was probably one of the most intense sessions that I've ever posted on my channel for a tabletop campaign. Definitely one big major mind F. And Drimmy, unfortunately, played a very tragic role in the climax. One that I personally did not plan for, foresaw, or even wanted to have happen in the first place. But the way things all played out, it had to be. Dylan deserves an Oscar for the way he handled that scene. I certainly would not have been able to pull off anywhere near what he did myself.
Why, you son of a bitch! And he's gonna pull out his gun and he's gonna walk up to Simon and he's just gonna keep he's gonna just shoot 20 times.
A motion to Giuseppe. Giuseppe, we need to get her out of here. She can't see us.
No, she can't. Pick her up and leave the room.
Can you get an imprint?
Is it even really worth it?
Up to you.
You know those words you gave me back in the mid-bay, I've been thinking about them and I can't do it.
Okay.
I can't.
I'm sorry, man.
It's another person I've lost.
Anar actually approaches Sink and puts a tentacle on his shoulder, but he doesn't say anything.
I'm nothing but a failure.
Hey. You're not a failure.
Look at me, I'm a monster.
Anar will say, you want to see a true monster? Well, look at what used to be that puddle.
You're right.
What do you think it takes to become that?
I just feel like I could have been better to Jeremy, just like I could have been better to Beatrice. Another chance wasted. Let's just get out of here.
It was a horrible way to end the story arc, but it was a truly incredible and impactful moment whose lasting effects would continue to linger throughout the rest of the story. Number 2. Singing in Detroit Become Human. This is one of the most recent games that I have Let's Played, and it quickly became one of my favorites of all time for its incredible story, characters, voice acting, and its incredibly complex but well executed choice-based gameplay. In addition, this game invoked the entire gamut of emotions within me, from casual exploration, adrenaline-pumping action, terrifying horror, adorably amusing comedy, and gut-wrenching sadness and tragedy. The total feels package. There's a possible scene at the climax of the story, the pinnacle of intensity, where one of the main characters starts singing, and I just completely lost it. The tears were flowing after so much investment in these characters and the situation they currently found themselves in. Everything led up to this, and I was so moved by the end with a full rush of emotions. It left me cathartic afterwards, an experience I will continue to remember in the years to come. And my number 1 top emotional moment on my channel is breaking down during To the Moon. I've gotten misty-eyed and teary-eyed on numerous occasions on my channel, but the time that I really broke down crying the most was in the middle of my Let's Play of To the Moon. I was sobbing uncontrollably. So much of what was happening in the game resonated so deeply to me and was so relevant to my personal life. I think I stopped and restarted crying at least 2 to 3 times. And I still continued to cry for a bit off camera as well, before finally regaining my composure to continue on. That portion of the game hit me hard. More so in that moment than even the ending itself. Well, that's a wrap, everybody. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite emotional moment was on my channel. Thank you again so much for watching this top 10 list. I hope you continue enjoying the rest of the lists that I'll have for you in the coming months. Until next time, love yourselves and love each other.